Hey, what's going on? This is another episode of the Reporter Vlog for April 29th, 2024 on a Monday. Serious story dump today. It's, these two stories been on my timeline a little bit too long. 6 days old a piece. So we'll be dumping them today. First one, first one of the doubleheader. Caught on camera, alligator spotted outside of a Florida doorstep. Of course, my to do my credits for this one is story sponsored by WLKY uh, News um, with the author Justin Jocelyn Flower, far as the editor. Okay, a Fort Myers, Florida resident spotted an alligator hiding under her neighbor's car. Then posted it up at a uh, posted up at a nearby doorstep Thursday night. Sierra Grant noticed a gator was hiding underneath her next door neighbor's car around 9 p.m. Whew. When she opened the door to see where the gator went, her husband had gotten home and shouted to stay inside and come out to the garage. Grant said the gator then walked 2 houses over, which, which was where he, which is where he knocked at the door. And afterward, came back to her home. We ran in so that we wouldn't be stranded outside. Grant said. On Friday morning, the creature made an appearance again and was removed. Okay, that's going to do it for that one. Basically, this is the bad part about about living in Florida. You never know if you're going to run into a gator just outside your door. and but it's crazy. I don't know what there's no follow up to this story. I definitely don't know what happened to the gator. They probably got the guy. They probably called in some specialists, cops, Florida PD to gather it up just to put a guess on it. But this is like I said, this is the bad part of living in Florida. The only way I wouldn't dare live in Florida. The only reason why I wouldn't go to live in Florida, really, to be honest, because who wants to run into a gator outside your door, waiting for you to walk just a little bit closer to him, to it, wherever, however you want to put it. But one of the crazy things about Florida, hopefully they got the gators, so the person can at least uh, step outside their house again, instead of going out the back door to do what they have to do. But that's where it rolls in Florida. But that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one, the final story dump of this doubleheader. When her mother went missing, the Illinois woman ventured into the dark corners of America's romance scam epidemic. Of course, this story is brought to you by CBS. Give credits to the story. This story is brought to you by CBS News. editor Jim Axelrod, and Sheena Samu, Andy Bess, and Matthew Mosk, and Sari Aviv on April 22nd, 2024. And Laura Kowal decided to date again after losing her husband of 24 years. The 57-year-old retired hospital executive from Galena, Illinois, joined an online dating service site because that felt safer. The relationship she forged with a self-described Swedish investment advisor named Frank Borg began with Florida emails and giddy phone calls in October of 2018. It was romantic and exciting, but it soon became more furtive. Uh, on August 7, 2020, Kowal's daughter, Kelly Gal, uh, received a voicemail from the federal investigator informing her that her mother may have been involved in a fraud scam as a victim. Hmm. The events that followed not only ended in tragedy for Kowal, they would transform the life of her daughter, Gal. Uh, Still grapples with all that transpired with after receiving that phone call, but she has launched herself at a new cause, the demystify romance scams. To demystify romance scams, a crime has victimized tens of thousands, many too ashamed to report it. Woo. Romance scam. Let's repeat that again. Uh, Romance scam, the crime that has victimized tens of thousands, many too ashamed to report it. It wasn't until I learned that I was going to have a daughter of my own that I knew that one day she would know the full story. Gal told CBS News. I want her to know that her grandmother's story has the ability to educate people and promote change. Ultimately, her grandmother's story can save someone's life. Anybody could be a victim. Kowal's story is not unique. More than 64,000 Americans were defrauded out of over 1.14 million by romance scammers last year. Whew, let's read that again. Over 64,000 Americans were defrauded out of over 1.414 billion by romance scammers last year, according to the Federal Trade Commission. A figure expert says likely vastly underestimates the amount of damage done. Deputy Assistant Attorney General Anru Rao, uh, who oversees the Consumer Protection Branch of the Department of Justice, said one of the biggest challenges facing law enforcement is how few victims report the crime. He attributes that to embarrassment and shame. They shouldn't feel embarrassed or ashamed. Rao said, "There's no sophisticated fraudsters who are preying on. These are sophisticated fraudsters who are preying on the human desire for affection, and they are manipulating and using sophisticated technology. That technology allows the scammers to establish deeper connections with their victims, like Sue, a retiree who says lost her home and nearly 2.5 million to someone she met on Match.com. Mm. Sue agreed to speak with CBS under the pseudonym out of fear uh, still being watched, what she called the sucker list. She says the psychological manipulation that Fosters put her through was masqueraded as a love story. Skyped with him. I had no idea that he could fake a Skype. Sue said, "People say, how can you give money to a stranger? He wasn't a stranger at that point." Rouse said enforcement has been a counter that faulty assumption that romance scam victims should have known better. There's no single demographic targeted, by some estimates, men make up 40% of the victims. Let's repeat that again. Men make up 40% of the victims, and people of all ages and backgrounds have been taken in. We have seen very sophisticated individuals become victims. Rao said. We have had recent examples where physicians, bank analysis, who deal with these types of issues in their workplace have been victimized. Anybody could be a victim. I've been living a double life. Kelly Gal, of course, crusade began just moments after she raced from Chicago to her mother's home, 3 hours west, only to find it empty. I just knew I had a good feeling, she said. Kawal was supposed to have lunch that day with her neighbor, Kathy, but canceled just 10 minutes before they were supposed to leave. Kathy said she had seen her in the driveway on the phone with someone. We had suspicions of Frank at the beginning, Kathy said, but you have to know Laura. She was such a strong woman. Gal uh, searched her mother's house and found buried in the filing cabinet an undated note addressed to her, and it said, "I've been living a double life this past year. It has left me broke and broken. Yes, it involves Frank, the man I met through online dating. Tried to stop this many times, but I knew I would end up dead." Woo! The note left an inscription for how to access her mother's emails. How it started. After her husband's death from cancer, Kawal had moved from Chicago to Galena, a small town in northwest Illinois that boasts stunning views from the state park overlooking the Mississippi River in a 19th century house that belonged to Ulysses S. Grant. She quickly collected a wide circle of friends playing golf, working at a boutique, and traveling to senior centers with her dog Effie, uh, a white poodle with a easy disposition. She had all these buckets full in her life. My mom did, but there was this one bucket that was missing. Gal said, and that was this companionship. In 2018, she joined Match.com. She chose to meet someone online. Just 3 in 10 Americans have because she told her daughter it felt safer than meeting someone out at a bar. Enter Frank Borg, the self-described businessman who claimed he was born in Sweden, with roots in the U.S., with whom she connected on the dating site. Frank's photo showed a trim in the outdoors with an angular face and a salty hair, mature and fit. He claimed family ties in Iowa, just like Kowal. Also, a spouse, just like Kowal, a single adult child, just like Kowal. After a few days on site, the pair exchanged emails. This also, I'm also new to this online dating thing. He told Kowal Laura his first email to her. I'm an honest and caring person who is very loyal to those I care about. And they exchange numbers. I hope we can always talk on phone and cherish each other's voice, he wrote to her. Over the next 10 days, they exchanged stories, and began opening up to him, trusting you blindly here. Trust is really big for me, Kowal wrote. In total, it took 12 days to get him from the first email to Kowal's returning his affection. My heart is ready for you, she said, wrote signing. Love you, Frank. You're in my heart forever. Clearly, my mom felt emotions for feeling loved, Gal said. I know there's a lot of people out there saying, well, how could that happen? How could happen to anybody? Qual's venture onto the online relationship came just as federal law enforcement officials uh, were seeing a dramatic rise in scam activity on dating sites and social media. We see from 2017 to 2023 is when we had a sharp increase in romance frauds. Let's repeat that again. We see from 2017 to 2023 is when we had a sharp increase in romance frauds, said James C. Barnacle Jr., who oversees the financial crimes section of the FBI. Prior to 2017, we didn't have a significant number of romance fraud complaints in the United States. Expert attributes the rise to better technology in hotspots for fraud like Nigeria and Ghana, and an easier path to moving money electronically. Ain't that something? Romance scams had involved since the days of the Nigerian prince letters and money wire to Western Union, Barnacle said. Hmm. Mark Solomon, president of the International Association of Financial Crime Investigators, said fraudsters had educated themselves. They began sharing scripts and techniques in the dark web and social media sites and Telegram. Let's read that again. Mark Solomon, president of the International Association of Financial Crime Investigators, said fraudsters had educated themselves. They began sharing scripts and techniques on the dark web in social media sites and Telegram. Their playbooks are out there. Solomon said how to commit this crime from A to Z. Solomon said that law enforcement was caught flat-footed. Law enforcement is a little bit behind, Solomon said. We had to train more local detectives and investigators, more state and more federal agents. When local police began investigating Kowal's disappearance, their missing person alert identified her as being suicidal. It was a misunderstanding, Gal said, forged in the panic of first hour after mother had vanished. In fact, Gal had begun to find evidence that her mother's relationship with Frank had morphed over time. Hundreds of emails showed that Frank manipulated her, coaxing her into wiring funds and to a fake company called Goose Investments. In total, she sent 1.5 million. Woo, 1.5 million. Initially, their emails had all the language of love. Him telling her he would never stop loving you. Her replying, "This is love, blind trust. Yes, I am the woman who is trusting you." Over time, their emails lost the sheen of romance and became more transactional. Frank sends emotionless instructions for Kowal to make fake dating profiles on apps like Match.com, Christian Mingle, to open them multiple new bank accounts, set up for false companies, and eventually, as her savings dwindled, to mortgage her home. As the nearly 2 year relationship went on, Kowal started to express skepticism. In one exchange in May of 2019, she emailed him saying that she was struggling. You and these strangers are clearly finding out more about me than I know about you due to this process, she wrote, her suspicions rising. The longer the scheme went on, Gal found out that the trail became confusing, with more and more conversations taken offline. She believes her mother began receiving threats. I believe there was threats behind it, or maybe this was her way of recouping the money that she had given them. Gal said, "It just really saddens me that it got to that point. That ultimately she was participating in illegal behaviors, right? And I believe that she was doing that because she felt like she had to. There was no other choice." Hmm. In August 9th, 2020, in Missouri's state police marine accident team responded to a report of a body floating in the Mississippi River near Canton, Missouri, hundreds of miles from Galena, where Kowal had been found. Hours later, Kowal's car was discovered on a boat ramp in a Scrabble River town in southern Illinois, more than 3 hours south of Galena. Police found no glaring sign of foul play. Lewis County, uh, Lewis County, and Sheriff David Parrish told CBS News that the investigators at the scene sought to determine did something happen here. It, is this more than just a recovery? And based on the investigation we did at the time, primarily through the Marine Division of the Highway Patrol, it appeared that it was a recovery. Forensic review of Qual's phone shows that it was turned off in the hours before her death. Her last text message to her friend Kathy was "All is good." The autopsy proved inconclusive, ruling Kowal's death to be from drowning, but giving no further indication about her how she wound up in the water. Police Gal said made a snap assumption that her mother died by suicide. Since her mother was found, Gal had been troubled by the incrudities of the case. Who was she speaking with on the phone, or as she left home? How did her car wind up parked on the boat ramp, hundreds of miles away? Why, if she took her life, would she do it in a manner that would make it unlikely that she would be found? And what of the cryptic note? No, not left on the counter, but buried in the drawer, predicting that she would have wound up dead. I've never been ashamed if a finding of suicide was the outcome, Gal said. And it's not that because I don't want to believe that there would be some closure that would come if we were able to prove her mom committed suicide. But do I believe that they had been proactively seeking out evidence in an investigation beyond suicide? No. Law enforcement had been unable to determine if Kowal was in contact with someone driving in her car, her drive during her drive. They found packaging for a burner phone in her home, but no actual phone. Her Honda Pilot was not a recent enough model to allow them to retrace her her drive through on the onboard computer. Her last cell phone ping was near the river crossing of Sabula, Iowa, 40 minutes south. Oh, yeah, and her mother, close friend, was sought answers themselves, retracing her mother's likely driving route, collecting surveillance images from the day on the chance of finding evidence. Corral was not alone. So far, she has pursued many leads, but found a few answers. Investigators have been unable to verify the real identity of Frank, only that the photos used were stolen from social media of a doctor in Chile, and the emails actually originated in Ghana. Max Group said it removed the fraudulent account immediately once it was notified by federal law enforcement, but would not say how long the profile was up on their site or how many others matched with Frank. Last year, Gal left her job and has dedicated her life to share her mother's story as a cautionary tale and advocate for victims. Earlier this year, she spoke to a women's group in Iowa urging financial institutions and law enforcement to do more to protect victims. I would not be doing her justice, Gal said, if I wasn't sharing this case and her story to help other victims and to educate people so that nobody else falls victim to the crime of romance scamming. And no man, it sums it up. Definitely a story that speaks for itself. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna keep it on my time on my page. Uh, Hopefully that helped you, especially if you're dating like uh, the online dating surfer. I used to be when I was younger before I retired to single status retirement home. But they're brutal out there. They really are. They're sneaky as can be, they're cold blooded as can be. All they need is an opening and they will take it at the cost of maybe your life. But that's what it's all about. Got so many scammers out there from iTunes, the Amazon card scammers. That's the ones I usually used to run into, and whatever it takes. Yeah. So many scammers that can fill up more than a book. But hopefully that story helps somebody that's still thinking about finding the one through online dating. Hopefully it helps them steer. Uh, Hopefully the story helps them go another way and go another way. I put the emphasis on go another way. But that's gonna do it. I've been going off here. I've been on here long enough. This is another episode of the reporter vlog with a double header story dump for April 29th, 2024 on a Monday morning. Y'all have a good one. I am gone.